Bonjour tout le monde, bienvenue dans le premier épisode de Conversation par deux salles de ambiance, le sous-podcast où on s'entretient avec des acteurs de l'industrie du cinéma. Je suis Inès.
Et je suis Gabrielle, et aujourd'hui on va parler à Paolo Tripoli, le réalisateur de The Holy Boy. Du coup, un film d'horreur italien qui parle de Sergio, un prof de sport remplaçant, qui déménage à Remis, dans le nord de l'Italie, je crois.
Oui.
Et qui va découvrir une ville très bizarre, avec un délire un peu étrange autour d'un jeune homme, donc Matteo Corbin.
Un petit garçon de 15 ans.
Ouais, c'est pas vraiment un jeune homme, c'est un adolescent.
Jeune homme, petit garçon, tu vois, on fait le milieu et
Voilà.
on tombe sur Matteo. Ils sont très obsessed avec lui.
Ouais.
Trop même. Et donc on vous laisse avec l'entretien où on spoil un peu le film.
Mais pas trop, pas tant que ça.
Pas trop, et puis c'est pas des spoils qui vraiment gâchent le film de toute façon.
Ouais.
On se retrouve après pour vous donner nos avis sur le film et débriefer un petit peu. À tout de suite. Ciao Paolo, welcome to our podcast. So we saw your film yesterday, it was really great. Complimenti.
Grazie.
We have this theory on our podcast that horror is one of the hardest genre in film, even though it's really underrated. And we think that horror and romantic movies speak to the experience of humanity in ways that drama doesn't necessarily. Why do you, as a spectator and as a director, drawn to horror?
I really think that you're right. You said something really important. Of course, when you do a drama film, you are able to be more frontal in the way you speak about things. But I think it is more effective speaking about society and contemporary issues with a genre filter, because the genre filter makes people, it's like not telling people that you're watching something important in a way. I mean, you're telling something important without making them feel like it is so important. And so probably they get things in a more effective way. It's like when I think films are like medicine. Medicine is something that makes you feel good, but when you eat a pill or something like that, it is always bitter. And you don't eat a bitter pill, so you have to have a layer of sugar on the pill. The genre, and the horror genre in particularly, for me, in the things I do and I did until now, because I don't think I am a genre director. I'm a horror director because
You've done two other movies.
I've done other movies. I'm doing other movies, but I really love horror. And what horror is for me is that layer of sugar. People have fun watching the film, but they get. I don't do less. I don't want to give lessons. I'm not the kind of. But I try to take ideas and ideas that are important to me, and they get it in the sugar layer, under the sugar layer.
Why did you make this film at this moment in your career? What brought you to this film?
It is difficult because I made this film in this moment of my career, but I started writing this film like 8 years ago, and I spent a lot of years trying to get it found. It was difficult. In the meantime, I filmed two other films. My first film is called A Classic Horror Story. The second one is Flowing. And those were screenplays that producers offered to me. But this film started from me. I started writing from the first page with my co-writers. So it was really dear to me. But it was really difficult to get it founded and to convince people to, produce it. So it took a lot of time, and I shot this film right now in this moment of my career because I could shot it now and not before. And this is why.
And how would you say that your other experiences directing kind of like, what did you learn from those experiences and what did you took into directing this movie?
Especially my first experience, it was a Netflix film, so more entertainment-based film. It was really important as an experience for me. It was like being at school. It was my first film, but I learned a lot shooting that film, and I co-directed that film with another director. His name is Roberto De Feo. He was at PIF 4 years ago or 5 years ago now with his feature debut called Il Nido, The Nest. And Roberto was a older director than me, and we did this film together because we wrote together, and it was our film, mine and this. But I learned a lot from him. We're two different directors, but he taught me a lot about how to start a scene, to close it in a more effective way. And I learned a lot, not only from him, but from the experience of an entertainment film, about the rhythm during a shot, not just the rhythm after when you have to edit. I think I got better after that first film, and I took that experience in my second one and absolutely in my third one. But every film is cool. Every film gets you better.
Yeah.
I think this is like everything else in life. You grow old, you do things, you get more experienced.
Were there things in this movie that you weren't able to do, or that you had to cut out, or something that you wanted to do but...
Yeah, a lot, because we spent 7 years writing it, and we had a lot of scenes we had to cut because we didn't have the budget, we didn't have the time. A lot.
We're talking about founding a lot. How hard is it in Italy to get a horror movie with this kind of theme about mental health?
No, you can stop at horror movies.
Okay.
We don't do horror movies. It's a terrible moment for horror movies in Italy. We were great in doing horror movies, but it finished in the early 90s.
Okay.
It finished in the early 90s. Now there is not a real market for horror movies in Italy. It's like distribution companies and players don't believe we, as in Italian filmmakers, can do horror movies, so it's really difficult, and it is not the teams. Of course, if you try to make more difficult teams, it gets even harder. But the problem is, it's like the Italian industry don't believe in horror movies anymore, and this is tragic because the horror genre is really, 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 really important in every cinema, in every society, yes.
Yes, I think it's very important, and especially in Italian cinema, it's so big at one point in time. So it's too bad that that's not the case anymore.
Yeah.
But did you take inspiration from the horror cinema, from a particular culture? Did you kind of use everything you knew, like as a spectator, or did you use a lot of Italian cinema as inspiration, or American cinema?
Well, of course, I love Italian cinemas of the 70s, 80s, and of course I love Mario Bava, Lucio Fulci, Dario Argento, also the son of Mario Bava, Lamberto Bava, Martino. I think those kind of films are not a real inspirations for this one for me, but I remember I was writing a small essay on Mario Bava's film Sei donne per l'assassino while shooting La Valle dei Sorrisi di Holy Boy. So I watched that film over and over, and probably something of that kind of style of the zooms and something like that are in the Holy Boy now, because you watch something you love and your mind is like, okay, you don't want to, but your mind says this works in this particular moment and it fits in the overall style of the film, and just there is something an inspiration that is not direct inspiration, but is something that you feel when you watch the film again after a lot of time. Probably something of the film I was writing about ended in the film I was shooting at the same moment. But I cannot say what film really inspired me during the shooting. I know while I was writing this film, I looked a lot to the coming of age horror films, such as Let the Right One In, Thelma by Joachim Trier, Carrie by Stephen King, which is one of the most important to me. But while shooting, I don't know. I don't really know. Of course, The Wicker Man was important. While I was writing, when I shoot the film, it's like I don't want to watch other people films because I don't want to risk to copy anything. I want to be integro. I don't know how to say in French, but it's like to be whole. To be, it's me.
Integral.
Integral. Yes, I think it's really important to be integral when you shoot a film.
Yeah. And I think your film did that. I think it was very much like you can tell that it's Italian cinema, but it's also not stereotypical Italian cinema in a way that you would think it's derivative. It's very unique, but also very, integral.
Talking about it
Thank you.
after, we thought it was very clean in a way. Like we could see the decision making throughout the movie, and we're like, yeah, those choices make sense at that time. It's very neat in a way, you know.
It's very well
But
done.
It's
not
clean.
too scholarly.
Yeah, not too scholar, not boring, but it's well done in a way that's really interesting. And it's
Thank
very,
Thank you very much.
It's hard to explain because it's
No,
we use
of course, but I understand. And sorry, my English is about. You speak a beautiful, incredible English. So.
I'm half American.
You're half American. I can tell your English is also the pronunciation. It's really good.
You mentioned the title in Italian. Were you the one who decided on the title that it was going to have internationally, The Holy Boy, because it's La Valle
dei Sorrisi.
Yeah.
It would translate in the Valley of Smiles. Valley of Smiles. But I think the focus of this film is actually, for me, the Holy Boy, the Matteo Corbin, the angel of Remis. And so I think The Holy Boy was a good title for me, but I couldn't translate it in Italian.
Okay.
And of course the three main characters of this film are Matteo, Sergio and Remis.
Yeah.
So it made sense to me that in Italian the film was called La Valle dei Sorrisi, but it also made sense that it was called The Holy Boy internationally. But a lot of people told me Valley of Smiles would have make a better, more evocative title. So I don't know. I like The Holy Boy.
I think it just shifts the focus, whether you focus
Yes.
on Remis or
On the boy.
It's really ironic because at the end of the film, the Valley of Smiles and The Holy Boy, and they end up to be one thing. So it's really
No, that's what I thought was
ironic.
interesting, to having both those perspectives on either you focus on the boy or on the town, but at the end it's the same thing.
Yes,
They
at the end
become
it's
one.
really the same thing, and probably it's the same thing from the start because they cannot exist one without the other.
one of the main themes is mental health. How did you research or approach that theme in the movie?
I think it is something really dear to me because it's really difficult for people to accept a decline in their mental health, and that it can happen. It can happen to don't be whole. I don't know how to say. And I think this film is not about the decline of the mental health, but it's about people not accepting that decline. And I wanted to show that kind of reactions. I wanted to show how they fight so hard to say I'm good,
Yeah, to be in denial.
to be in denial, and to push as far as possible the suffering, the pain, the grief, those kind of emotions. Nobody loves to feel, but emotions that are inevitable, and they are part of us, and those kind of emotions make us soul, but we cannot accept them. We cannot accept them, and we do terrible things to avoid them. And probably everybody in Remis would need a therapist. Everybody. But it's difficult to people to say, yeah, I need a therapist. It is still difficult. I just can say
And
my
it's easier
therapist.
to use Matteo than to go
It's
to another
easier
town.
to use Matteo or a phone
Yeah.
or food or cigarettes or drugs or
To distract yourself from
yes.
the
Problems,
emptiness.
yeah.
And
It is more immediate. But I can say my therapist helped me a lot through my life. and I can say probably I'm just like them, but I understood. Everybody is like the people of Remis. For everybody, it's difficult to front our pain, but this is the only way. And I don't want to give lessons to anybody, but I can say it helped me a lot, and probably it would help them as well.
I feel like we don't have much time, so three last question. What can you tell us about your next film, L'Estraneo?
It is co-produced by France and it will be released in France next year. It is a really different project from The Holy Boy. It is not a horror film, first of all. It is more like a psychological thriller and a family saga. And what I can say about the story, it is about a mother who visits her daughter during a storm in Rome and start to tell a different version of their family story, telling that a lot of what she thought was a lie. And the story is set in the present, but the telling starts again from 99 to the present again. And it is a really exciting story, and it is full of twists, and it's a family-led film. So it's really different from this film, which focus on a father-son relationship. At the center of my next film, the focus is a mother-daughter relationship. And I think there are two different relationships, and I have to work a lot more to understand them, because of course I'm not a woman and I'm not a daughter, I'm a son. But it was really interesting, and I was helped a lot by the two incredible leads who are Romana Maggiore Vergano, who in The Holy Boy played Michela, and Jasmine Trinca, who plays the mother.
Great. And just to end it, we have a typical question of the podcast. Would be, what are two movies that you love? One that you think it's very entertaining to watch, and one that you think is a masterpiece, because the movies can be very different. And if you had to organize a double feature night of any two movies to see in perspective, which would those two movies be?
Probably staying in the horror genre, I would say The Exorcist and Evil Dead. They are two important movies for different reasons. Evil Dead is really fun time, and The Exorcist is really heavy, also emotionally, and it would make a perfect double feature.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, grazie
Thank
mille.
you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Du coup, c'était l'entretien avec Paolo, ça s'est super bien passé. C'est notre première interview et donc on est super reconnaissante au PIF de nous avoir accordé leur confiance pour les accréditations presse. Vous trouverez pas mal de petites vidéos sur nos reviews à la fin des films qu'on a vus sur nos comptes TikTok, même là sur YouTube Short, hein, si vous êtes sur YouTube. Si vous êtes sur Spotify, vous connaissez déjà nos réseaux, normalement, ils sont dans la description. Mais du coup, voilà, donc on est super reconnaissante pour les accréditations et pour nous avoir accordé 2 interviews avec 2 réalisateurs.
Qui était vraiment très intéressant.
Voilà, la deuxième interview, elle va arriver juste après, hein, vous spoil pas le sujet. Qu'est-ce que t'as pensé du film ?
J'ai beaucoup aimé. Je suis pas trop film d'horreur, donc c'est pas trop mon truc de base. Mais ça marchait vraiment bien comme un film de manière générale, sans être trop dans l'horreur, mais en même temps en étant totalement dans l'horreur. En fait, je sais pas, il a un bon équilibre entre les deux, et je l'ai trouvé très beau aussi.
Oui, je suis d'accord, le film est vraiment très joli. D'ailleurs, à l'instant où on enregistre, il a gagné le prix Ciné Plus Frisson au PIF. Donc, quand il sortira en France l'année prochaine, il aura tout un accompagnement promotionnel, ce qu'il mérite. Hein.
Oui.
Vraiment, c'est... De toute façon, moi, je pensais que c'était lui qui allait gagner le prix du public. Oui. C'était pas le cas, mais ça se voyait qu'il allait gagner un prix. Il est vraiment très bien fait. Je trouve que c'est un cinéma d'horreur. Après, je connais très peu le cinéma italien. Je connais très peu le cinéma tout court. Mais je trouvais que ça ressemblait vachement à Ari Aster dans la vibe. J'ai retrouvé beaucoup de Midsommar et d'Hérédité. C'était intéressant, en fait, de voir... on voit dans le film, on va voir une ville avec des gens qui sont tous traumatisés et qui gèrent leur traumatisme de la même manière, mais ils sont pas traumatisés de la même manière.
Ouais.
En fait, il y a vraiment plusieurs niveaux, il y a beaucoup de nuances, c'est pas tout noir ou tout blanc.
Et même avec Matteo, en fait. Paolo, il a dit plusieurs fois que son film, c'était pas un film de héros. Mais Matteo, est-ce que c'est pas un héros aussi? En fait, on peut se poser la question, c'est pas un méchant, c'est pas un gentil, personne n'est méchant ou gentil.
Ouais, c'est ça qu'il dit dans l'interview. Oui. Il est pas là pour donner des leçons. Ça aussi, c'était intéressant. Il y a quelque chose de vrai très ambivalent.
C'est ça, et je pense que son film, il veut vraiment témoigner de l'humanité à un certain moment donné, et il le fait très bien. Et puis niveau mise en scène, réalisation, on le dit dans l'interview, on voit vraiment tous les choix. Quand il pose la caméra avec des angles un peu bizarres, quand il fait des flous, quand il la retourne, enfin on voit vraiment plein de choses, et on voit ce qu'il choisit de montrer, ce qu'il choisit de pas montrer, enfin... Bon, il y a toute une ambiance, et je trouve que c'est vraiment les bons choix au bon moment. C'était vraiment très bien fait, et je pense qu'on peut attendre beaucoup de ce réalisateur à l'avenir, et voir comment est-ce qu'il va diversifier son style, et apporter plus de créativité, et plus de choix qui marcheront peut-être pas forcément, parce que là en fait c'est très bien fait sans être scolaire, mais on voit la méthodologie derrière. Et moi j'aimerais voir ce qui se passe quand il essaye de casser des règles. Là on voit qu'il maîtrise très bien les règles de son cinéma. J'aimerais voir ce qu'il fait après, avec ça, comment il en joue. Donc il faudra le suivre avec son prochain projet qui sortira l'année prochaine. Il en parle aussi à la fin de l'interview. On vous tiendra au courant sur les réseaux sociaux. Est-ce que tu as un dernier mot à dire?
Non.
Et j'espère que ce nouveau format vous plaît de podcast. On continue bien évidemment les critiques, plus longues, trop longues pour certains. Mais ce format un petit peu à mi-chemin, ça vous permet peut-être d'être un peu plus familier avec notre univers, avec notre vibe. Et peut-être de vous embarquer dans l'aventure de Salle 2 Ambiance, 3 heures par épisode. Je sais pas. C'est... voilà. Si vous avez des idées d'interviews que vous voulez qu'on fasse, des corps de métier, des personnes en particulier, vous pouvez nous les soumettre. On promet rien.
Ouais, on fait de notre mieux.
Mais on peut envoyer des mails.
Ouais.
Et ensuite, on voit les réponses.
C'est ça. C'est notre nouvelle mentalité cette année, on va oser.
Donc allez-y, envoyez-nous vos propositions les plus farfelues. Si vous voulez, même on peut demander à Francis Ford Coppola. On a
rien à perdre.
On a une entrée, hein, de toute façon. Et puis c'est tout. Bisous, bisous. Hubert, dis bisous.
Bisous.
La caméra, elle est là.